Greetings, everyone. I hope you've been well. Okay, I want to get through something that's been coming for a long time today. There's been a user who's been commenting on my videos for a long time now, asking about this book, and if I would please complete my review of it. This is the book of Basic American Ideals. I came across this a while back. I did another video on it. I covered some aspects of it briefly, but I found it at a garage sale for 50 cents. And at the time I was studying of Masonry and the Founding Fathers and Illuminati and all this. So I thought it was real interesting this book would fall into my lap at that time. The book is published by the Supreme Council, 33rd Degree, Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Southern Jurisdiction, United States of America. So, within the book was this flyer for the Masons. And I think this was around their bicentennial, yeah. 1787, 1987 is what it reads here. You can see. And it talks about the Daughters of Job, Masonic youth groups. I like this article right here. The spiritual rebirth of our nation depends on its young people. And it's this Constitution. Of course, you've got the compass there. So this is some kind of bicentennial flyer, a bonus. So, okay, the book itself. The book covers all of these subjects it says here. Declaration of Independence and Constitution, our public schools, the road to freedom, church and state, our USA, communism menaces freedom, free enterprise. And these are all concepts that our country was founded on. This is, no doubt, published by the 33rd Degree of the Masonic Council. The book itself goes on to portray our forefathers as, you know, great men, men of freedom, men of liberty, men of virtue. And it's got the pictures here of our famous scenes we were taught in school. Washington crossing the Delaware. This is probably one of my favorite sections of this, is where it gives you excerpts from Washington's farewell address. Now, George Washington himself was a very well-spoken man. The English language back then was different. If you would speak it today to people, they would probably be lost right away at what you were trying to say. But the way in which Washington speaks is very eloquent. He chooses his words very well, and he seems to, you know, have some kind of gift with speech, just like Hitler did, just like all the great war heroes, generals, leaders of time. They're all gifted in the speech and the way they talk and just an energy they put out as they speak, which is going to lead into my conclusion of this book at the end of this video. So, Washington makes a lot of really good points on what's really going on, but he says them in such a way that unless you're really listening and have, you know, a good vocabulary, you'll have no clue what he's talking about. And that's by design, of course. He basically talks about the spirit of party and how it can run roughshod over freedom and liberty if the people allow it to happen. Now, we know that a good portion of our founding fathers were Masons, but what many people don't know is that the highest tier of them were Bavarian Illuminati. And this is Washington, this is Jefferson, this is Franklin. Those are the main three Bavarian Illuminati members that I know of, which you know, were the founding fathers of this country. And when you look at their credentials, you see that, you know, Jefferson was a carpenter, he was a scientist, he was an alchemist, he was all of these different titles. And all of these guys were. And at that time, to have that level of education was something of a rarity. But when you look into Bavarian Illuminati and how they, you know, were founded and the schools of thought and knowledge were so advanced, you'll see there's a connection there. There's a connection to the entire founding of the country, everyone. There was an ulterior motive. It's more than just freedom and liberty. And again, I'm going to touch on that at the end of this book. So then it moves on to Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. This basically covers when the Founding Fathers were there, when they were signing the acts, the first, you know, few amendments that came to be. It was basically the founding of the doctrine and the Constitution. Now, the Constitution was the basis for everything we think we know today in this country of freedom, liberty, justice, rights, and all that. But at the same time, it's a 200-year-old document plus. So how many times can you amend a 200-year-old document before it just does not serve a modern people anymore? I think that's another thing that Washington was trying to hint at, is that there's going to come a time in this nation where, you know, a rebirth, a renaissance, if you will, a revolution may be needed. So, okay. Next it goes on to our public schools. Basically, it talks about how the education system was founded, how it works, the curriculum, how that's introduced, and it's all, you know, it's very clear, it's very concise, it's very detailed. But it also, of course, shows a bias towards, you know, other forms of education that do not fit the curriculum for the Board of Education of the United States of America. So there's definitely some biased tones in the book about communism. Now, communism, you know, myself, I'm not for communism. I think there's a better way. But at the same time, I think you shouldn't dismiss it from the classroom. You should give the people a chance to study what it is, what it can create, and, you know, all the pros and the cons of it. But they don't. They just give you, you know, democracy. So we all know that anyway. The education system is rigged from day one. They only teach what they want us to know. The Road to Freedom talks about liberation from the British and the War for Independence. And the details it uncovers ties into my studies of conspiracy and the entire War for Independence being a ruse, simply to, you know, subvert, and we're still under the crown. We're still slaves to debt. We still are given a number, and depending on our labor during our lives, are evaluated upon that number, Social Security, to see if we benefit for retirement or not. It's the same system, it's just another thing. And I honestly feel the highest members of the Bavarian Illuminati, like Washington, Franklin, Jefferson, they knew this. And that's why they spoke of what's to come, and they spoke of, basically, the people need to keep their eyes open and keep their politicians honest, the spirit of party, or they will run roughshod all over the civilian people. And that's what they're doing now. The forefathers were trying to tell us this, but, you know, they speak in such an eloquent way, it's hard for anybody to comprehend it. And let alone, who has the time to comprehend it anymore? It's work, it's sleep, and it's work and it's sleep. And that's exactly how this whole country was designed. It's a wonderful country. We create wonderful things. You have wonderful opportunities here. But at the same time, there's a dark secret behind all of it. And this dark secret is becoming more and more apparent as days go by. Okay, then it goes into communism, menaces freedom. It basically talks about the rise of the Soviet Empire, and it was a brutal uprising. And in many ways, communism does menace freedom. But at the same time, you should be free to explore communism. Am I correct? You should have the liberty to learn more of what it is and what it can create, other than a biased view coming from, you know, the Masonic Lodge or whoever, the Illuminati. Free enterprise. This is one of the best parts of it all, because it's all based upon our system of debt, of course, which is a ruse from day one. It talks about the great opportunities that can be had via mining in this nation. It even talks a little about uranium. And this book was published in, I believe, the 60s sometime. Let me double check that and make sure. Okay. Arranged by Willard E. Givens, 33rd degree, Director of Education, the Supreme Council, 33rd degree. Copyright 1967. Okay, so that was the time. Free Enterprise goes into Telstar 1, which was one of our first satellites to orbit the planet. It also talks about mining, as I said, and uranium. And so basically it just, you know, gives you all the good things about free enterprise and the opportunities that can arise from it. And at the time, you know, it was a great concept. People in the 60s, they didn't really know everything they know now. They didn't have that huge information, you know, gap that we now have between people and people who don't use the internet and don't have access to a computer and cannot learn of the things, of the truth of the world. So, in conclusion of this book, I'm going to put this as blunt as I can, everyone. We all know that the Masons are an ancient order. We all know they're affiliated with the Illuminati. And we all know that the Illuminati is affiliated with otherworldly powers. So basically, I feel this book is a basis for colonization on a planetary or a national level. This is the kind of thing you would give to a time traveler and send them back in time, and they would be able to create civilization based upon the foundations and principles that are laid in this book. And the people would think it was the greatest thing ever. They would think, you know, this person might be God. Where do they get all these wonderful concepts? So there's a much deeper agenda going on, everyone. It's an otherworldly agenda. It's not just national colonization, it's planetary colonization. And the Masons and the Illuminati are well aware of that. The Masons came to this planet because they build foundations, they build homes for people, they build schools of thought and knowledge for people. That was the basis of the Bavarian Illuminati themselves. I feel they wanted to get away from some aspects of the crown, not completely away from it, but, you know, get away from some aspects of the monarchy so they can create something new. So they can create their own with, you know, of course, it's not completely their own, but that's the way they work. They're masters of duality. They do just enough of this, so everything else they do on the other side of polarity is veiled. So yeah, that's about my conclusion of Basic American Ideals, everybody. This is a manual to establish democracy in a nation that has never tried it and is ready to. I look at a lot of the New Age books about meritocracy and founding a new civilization, and you know, I can only wonder where are these books coming from? Where is this intelligence coming from? And that's going to lead into my last topic I wanted to cover today, which ties into this and ties into everything else going on right now. It's called mind control, everyone, and the Masons are masters at it. It takes many different forms: television, music, books, writing. Anything that can capture your imagination is a form of mind control. Some of it is more severe, more sinister, such as electronic harassment. However, it's happening to all of us. You are all under some form of mind control. If you believe it or not is irrelevant, because it is happening. That's all we are as a human, is a vessel, a home, a temple for thought, energetic consciousness to come into our temple and give us these thoughts. We're all slaves to our thoughts. I mean, unless you're, you know, a schizophrenic and have the ability to do things that would isolate you from knowledge and common sense. So that's why a lot of these guys are that way, because they've been able to do that. They've opened their mind in this way. But more forms of mind control are beauty. Beauty is a very powerful form of mind control, everyone. If you see a beautiful woman naturally, you're captivated by her right away. Or if you see a handsome man, you're captivated by them. You allow them into your thoughts. And right away, that's going to guarantee they have some form of mind control over you. They will use gestures. They will use body language, like, you know, things like that. Hand gestures and etc. And for all I know, I could be using mind control right now. I'll admit that. But it's very subtle. But it works. And a lot of people don't even know they're doing it. But whoever's controlling those people, they know they're doing it. And eventually, when the subject becomes intelligent enough to realize that, they will probably approach them and then say, okay, this is what you need to do. That's when the offer comes, you know. You're with us, or we're taking you out, or we're buying you out and making you a different personality. So be aware of these mind control triggers, everyone. Be aware. There's many traps that are laid before us right now, and many snares. We must be careful not to stumble into them, else you're going to have more difficult lessons that repeat over and over and over. And that's the whole goal of the Illuminati to begin with, is to keep the game going, to arise more questions, to divide rather than unite. That's duality itself. Because once we're aware and we unite, we're going to oust them and create something new. So I guess that's it for today, everyone. I hope I covered the book well. To my subscriber that has posted comments about it, I hope my explanation of it was concise and clear for you, and I hope it satisfied what you wanted to hear. If not, then you can check out the book yourself and possibly do your own vlog on it. So it's just, remember, everybody, they have to fly their flag. They have to show us what they're doing, but they can't show us directly. They take shortcuts. They use veils. They use sorcery. They use all these different forms of mind control to just, you know, keep us questioning it. So It's time to get organized, and it's time to make shit happen, everybody, together, intelligently, and it's all happening for a reason. The Founding Fathers knew what was going to happen 300-400 years down the road, because they're time travelers. And go ahead and try to wrap your head around that, but that's the honest-to-God truth. So, I love you all very much. I hope you're well, and until next time, I'll keep you updated.